This is Bowmore on beautiful Islay, and in 1902 this was the birthplace of one of Scotland's greatest World War II heroes.
I'm just full of admiration for all he's done.
It's quite awe-inspiring, I think.
Really a hero, he really was.
Islay is known as the Queen of the Hebrides. Standing proud at the top of Main Street is the round church of Bowmore. It's been a place of worship for over 200 years for the people of Islay, including a young man who would go on to live an incredible life. Donald Caskie grew up here on Islay with his 7 brothers and sisters speaking Gaelic, and it was said that he possessed the Hebridean gift of second sight.
My name is Tom Caskie. I'm Donald Caskie's nephew. My father was Donald's older brother, Tom Caskie. Donald grew up in Islay and he went to Edinburgh University and then to New College for Theology in Edinburgh. He was a very caring man, a committed Christian of course, and imbued with love and regard for humanity.
My first stop on Islay is the Museum of Islay Life, where I'm meeting curator JENNI MINTO. JENNI, tell me a little bit about Donald Caskie.
Donald Caskie was an Islay man. Islay is described as the friendly island, and I think that probably sums up Caskie's personality. He seemed to get on very well with people, a very personable gentleman and friendly, and therefore people trusted him.
By 1935 he was a contented minister in Gretna when he believed he was called to the city to fulfil his destiny. Leaving his home in Islay was not without its challenges, but they would be nothing compared with those he faced when he moved overseas.
I left Islay when I was 15 and I knew Harry Caskie, the brother of Donald Caskie on Islay. Coming to the mainland alone would have been something of a culture shock, and the Glasgow accents and all the rest of it, and I think he would find that difficult. And then, of course, France must have been extremely difficult for him.
Donald was called to France to become minister at the Scots Kirk in Paris, where he worked and enjoyed life, little knowing the turmoil that would engulf Europe in the following years.
Very close to the Champs-Élysées in Paris, there's a small street called Rue Bayard. And for, well, more than a century, it's been the home of the Scots Kirk in Paris. If you speak to people who knew Donald, he was a very jovial character. Not only did he invite people from all sorts to his manse for tea parties, but he was very much involved in the social life in Paris. We have here a photograph of Donald that was donated to us, and that is the young Donald Caskie, probably when he came to Paris in 1938. A young man, and he was only in Paris for 2 years when the war broke out.
At the start of the war, the Nazis occupied surrounding countries at a blistering pace. It took Hitler just 6 weeks to take over France. On the 14th of June 1940, Nazis marched in Paris.
His outright condemnation of Hitler's atrocities meant he had to flee from Paris in 1940. Paris would not be a safe place for Donald Caskie.
Caskie left Paris and began moving around France. But wherever he went, he spoke out against Hitler.
The Church of Scotland felt that he should actually be coming home. He followed their advice and made his way south into Vichy, France, and got as far as Marseille. But there he actually he felt a second calling.
He was told that the last ship bound for Britain was about to sail that day, and there was space on it for him. Donald refused to accept the space. He turned his back against self-preservation.
Despite orders to the contrary from the French Vichy government, Donald began aiding British soldiers and airmen stranded in France or escaping German camps.
Eventually he was contacted by the British Secret Service and he became a link in the chain, helping British soldiers to escape through over the Pyrenees and into Spain. At one point in time he was processing 25 men per week, and it went on for month after month after month. Donald's code name was Monsieur le Canard, or Donald Duck. That's what the Secret Service christened him.
Did you help these men escape?
Of course I did.
And why didn't you escape yourself?
Well, I had work to do.
Is it true when you first arrived in the South, you were offered passage home, but you refused by saying, "There's nothing I'd like better, but I cannot desert my own people in such a dreadful hour of need"?
That is true.
Every time he went to visit a British prisoner of war camp, he had the strong scissors for barbed wire, cutting barbed wire, or false identity cards.
He would also carry in implements that might help them escape, or forged papers that would describe them as tourists in that area of France, again, to aid their escape.
Eventually, Caskie was captured by the Gestapo. He was locked up and interrogated.
You are from the Highlands, yes?
I am.
Where?
Islay.
Interesting.
We Highlanders are a God-fearing people.
You have many things to fear, Padre, not just God.
Well, God is everywhere.
And how do you know this? Huh? Did you arrange to forge papers for him also?
By the time that the war was over, it is reckoned that he helped to save the lives of over 2,000 British soldiers and airmen.
Donald returned to Paris to discover the human spirit alive and well.
How wonderful for Dr. Caskie to return to Paris after the war and find the key to his church still hanging on the nail in the cafe next door. That's wonderful. Listening to Dr. Caskie's preaching, I was impressed by the softness of his accent. To be present, it was an honor for me in the presence of such a charming man.
What legacy has Caskie left on Islay?
There are still members of his family on Islay. Islay itself has recognised him in that there's a housing complex that's named after him, Donald Caskie Square. The island's very pleased as well to hold certain objects that his family have donated to the museum and also to the Round Church in Beaumont.
Items including Donald's OBE. And his legacy still remains strong in Paris.
This is Donald's Gaelic Bible, which was donated to the Scots Kirk. And then we have a few copies of the Tartan Pimpernel, which Donald wrote on request for the Scots Kirk in Paris.
The book, the Tartan Pimpernel, I don't know how many editions it's been done, but there's a new one out and it sells really, really well. It is a fantastic story of a man's humanity to other men in such horrendous circumstances.
In 1983, Donald Caskie passed away, and he was brought home here to Islay, and this stone marks the final resting place of the Tartan Pimpernel.
Donald is a Scottish hero, and people should know that. It's a story that might have sort of disappeared in the layers of history, but we should get it out and retell the story because he was a hero.
What Donald Caskie did was something that really, we should be told more about these things, because I went to school in Islay and I didn't even get told about that in school. We didn't know. Hopefully, folks will look at that and say, no, we don't want another war. This really isn't a clever thing to do.
A man who contributes his life to save over 2,000 other men has got to be remembered with love and respect. I'm not a soldier, but I'm in awe at his continuing decision to risk all he had, his life, for the preservation of other men. It's quite awe-inspiring, I think.
It's safe to say that Caskie was a modest man who downplayed the very brave work that he carried out during the war. But he believed most Christian men would have done the same.